in this specifically, because of the other work that Hbomberguy has done, which is very well researched, very intelligent, has done a lot of good. I'm going to be assuming that this is in some good faith, that he went in, even if he watched it in bad faith, that that these are his genuine opinions, not things he made up just to slander people. So yeah. With all that out of the way, let's get started.
RWBY feels like fanfiction of a show that doesn't exist. Except no, that's not true. There is one specific show it feels a whole lot like fanfiction for. To quote Miles Luna again, if you want to get a feel of what the show will be like, watch Avatar: The Last Airbender. Oh, this explains a lot of things. So if you go watch Avatar, you start to realise where a lot of the show came from. For example, Avatar is set in a world with 4 nations in it.
Long ago, the 4 nations lived together in harmony.
RWBY has 4 kingdoms.
Yeah! Wow. They must have taken that from Avatar. I mean, it's not like 4 is just a solid number of things to have in your world. It's not like it's just a good number that hits right. Or something that people could just come up with. Because it's like, hey, how many things should we have in our story? 4. Okay. It could be that simple. How do you go for... that's such a weak argument. It's absurd how weak that argument is.
So you see, it's different.
The 4 kingdoms.
They're called kingdoms because, well, they can't call them nations, can they? In Avatar, in times of stress, the Avatar enters a state where his eyes glow and he manifests amazing powers. You'll never guess that 3 seasons into the story, with zero setup that this is a thing, RWBY's eyes suddenly glow and she's revealed to have the amazing power to instantly turn even the most powerful Grimm to stone. You learn she has this power the instant it happens, and you only learn what this power is in retrospect, because there was no room in the story to set this up, was there?
God, I'm hating how he keeps focusing on this idea that they're self-inserts. He keeps hammering that in. Whatever. Anyways, RWBY's silver eyes are nothing like the Avatar state. Like, at all. Even just what you just saw, the visuals are so different. They're so different. Even just the visuals. But we can even talk about, just the actual... what the Avatar state is compared to the actual silver eyes. The Avatar state is the Avatar connecting with all of their past lives. And using all of that experience.
It's time you learned. The Avatar state is a defense mechanism designed to empower you with the skills and knowledge of all the past avatars. The glow is the combination of all your past lives, focusing their energy through your body. In the Avatar state, you are at your most powerful. But you're also at your most vulnerable.
What do you mean?
If you are killed in the Avatar state, the reincarnation cycle will be broken, and the Avatar will cease to exist.
RWBY's silver eyes are, it's a lore drop that comes down the line. And that's fine, because ultimately the silver eyes are, we're supposed to be surprised at them. RWBY is surprised at them.
Let's start with what you do know. Tell me.
Silver-eyed people are supposed to be legendary warriors. or something. And at the fall of Beacon, I turned a giant wyvern into stone.
Oh boy.
Look, if I already knew everything, I wouldn't be asking for help.
It is the desire to preserve life which fuels the light inside you. And make no mistake, it is light. Preservation is an extension of creation, or at the very least, an enemy of destruction. The creatures of Grimm were made by the god of darkness, but your light comes from his brother.
Anyways, just like another very flimsy comparison that he's acting like is incredibly strong.
Another cool thing about Avatar is that the Avatar reincarnates into a new form whenever he dies. Completely coincidentally, there's a character in RWBY whose spirit goes on to inhabit a new form whenever...
Okay, because, yeah, obviously Avatar created the idea of reincarnation. And of course, there's, you know, the fact that reincarnation in RWBY is not a good thing, actually. What happens with Oz is he reincarnates into the body of an already living person who has a similar soul, and then he slowly merges with them and overtakes their identity. It's a tragedy. It's not a good thing. And you have this kid, Oscar, who's desperately trying to hold on to his own identity as Ozpin overtakes him and merges with him slowly.
I'm just going to be another one of his lives, aren't I?
Of course not. You're your own person.
Don't lie to him, RWBY. We're better than that.
Anyone want to explain to me how that's like Avatar's Avatar cycle? Because I don't see it. Except for the fact that, I guess, reincarnation is a thing. But that doesn't feel like something that Avatar came up with.
he dies. Amazing. You see, it's actually a clever twist, because no one would have expected them to be that obvious. So when they really did just do Avatar again, it's a genuine surprise. Oh, another massively important plot element. One of the antagonists is a revolutionary political movement reacting to oppression, led by a man in a mask with horrendous scars underneath. Was I talking about RWBY there? No, I was talking about Avatar: Legend of Korra. But yes, that also happens in RWBY. Oh, actually, you see, the scar is different because it's over one of his eyes. That's slightly different from Avatar, so it's not the same thing, you see. No, what's this picture of Zuko doing?
So, Amon, his scar is paint. It's paint because he pretends to be someone he is not so that he can lead the revolution. He can radicalize everyone by appealing to their dissatisfaction. Now, there's a lot of issues with the way Amon was handled, and there's some issues with how the White Fang was handled and how the Faunus have been handled. This guy, this is Adam, right? He is, first of all, he is genuinely scarred. Like, not just scarred, he's branded. That is a brand from the Schneid Dust Corporation. So, yeah. Also, just, how can you go to a thing of he's exactly like this character, but then actually if you just put this other character, the aesthetics match, I don't know. It's again, this all just feels so weak. There's such weak arguments, which is really annoying for someone as skilled at video essays as Hbomberguy. It's all such weak arguments.
Here. Then, in later seasons, they decide to take the story in a very different direction, to make it a bit more unique. So now the characters have to travel the world and visit lots of different towns and villages and cultures on their way, which is completely unlike Avatar, because when it happens in Avatar, it's good. Remember when I was positive about the potential of RWBY's story and setting? Well, it feels like I'm really just complimenting the material it borrowed. So many of RWBY's choices seem made specifically that way because it was that way in Avatar.
I just do want to say, again, is it really an Avatar The Last Airbender exclusive of having your characters just travel across your world? Doesn't feel like it to me. Like, why is that? Isn't that just a...
Even though it's completely unnecessary to borrow those parts.
Why is it that every time you play with magic water, I get soaked?
It's not magic, it's water bending.
Oh my god, is that where the character's powers not being magic came from? Why would you even think to do that? I always thought each season of RWBY being called a volume was a bit weird and unwieldy. And guess what? It turns out it sounds way better when they're called books. Even the intro voice...
Now, you could say that it's similar to Book 1, that kind of thing. But, you know, I would also say that it in terms of just, like, whether it's actually copying it, not really. Because it doesn't even copy the format of, like, you know, it's like Book 1 Air, right? Book 2 Water, etc. Like, RWBY just says Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3. It also is not that unwieldy. I guess, you know, if he feels it's unwieldy, that's his prerogative. But, I don't know. Again, this just feels like such a weak argument. Like, why... Yeah. He's acting like all of this together makes a stronger argument. That, like, maybe some of this was weak on its own, but together, like, there's no way that it wasn't. But I don't know, it just feels so weak, man. The whole argument feels so weak, and he goes on for a long time about this. Let's keep going.
Voiceover sometimes sounds like they right-click thesaurus some aspects of Avatar's intro.
My grandmother used to tell me stories about the old days.
Legends. Stories scattered through time.
It's like the show's playing a game of telephone with Avatar. Those words in that order sounded good, so let's use some words that are a bit similar in a different order, and also make it all about dust. The thing that made Avatar's introduction work is it set up a lot of stuff at once. For example, how this setting's version of magic worked, the thing you didn't mention at all, or the fact there were 4 big nations. You know, the thing you didn't mention at all, except for when 4 castle-looking things turn up for 3 seconds before disappearing. Jean is a pretty direct analogue for soccer, to the point where the creators just say that's what he's based on.
Oh no, I'm saying, like, we when you first did Reed, and I was like, we need like a soccer character.
And this retroactively explains why Jean's plotline was so weird. The Jean arc had this subplot of Jean not accepting Pyrrha's offer to help train him to be a better fighter, but his explanation for why was always really strange. He wants to get better without help, or he's not really a hero, or something.
If I can't do this on my own, then what good am I?
But he never tries, and never pays attention in class, so that's bullshit. And at the end of his section of the story, he just accepts her help. Standing up to a bully taught him to... This confusing arc happens because it happened to Sokka. In Avatar, a story with characters with depth and infinitely better world building, in the beginning Sokka is not a great warrior, but he desperately wants to be one. He's from a culture that looks down on the idea of women being fighters, but then he gets wrecked by an order of female warriors who protect a village on their travels and has to confront his beliefs about women. He learns a lesson from this and begs them to train him. He gets better as a fighter, but this plotline is super engaging for an audience because we get to watch him grow as a person and change his beliefs. Sokka starts out like kind of as a shitty teen. I thought I would really not like him when I first watched Avatar, but he grows so much. He becomes such an interesting character super quickly. So now it's clear why Jean's arc is seemingly missing pieces. It's not just that Sokka was written better, but more specifically, it's clear the writers liked the idea of giving their Sokka character the same arc, but the problem with this arc is it means one of your core characters starts out as a bit of a chauvinist.
You know what else is great? Me. Jean Arc, nice to meet you.
You again? Nice to meet you, Jean.
Yeah. So, Weiss, couldn't help but overhear your fondness of me the other day.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me.
Don't worry, no need to be embarrassed. So, been hearing rumors about teams. I was thinking you and me would make a good one. What do you say?
Actually, I think the teams are comprised of 4 students each, so...
You don't say. Well, hot stuff. Play your cards right, and maybe you could join up with the winning team.
Jean, is it... Do you have any idea who you were talking to?
Not in the slightest, Snow Angel.
Oh, come on. Open the door. I promise not to sing.
affectiony. Will you accompany me to the dance on Sunday?
Are you done?
Yes?
No.
And needs time and work to grow into a better person. But if you're trying to write a cool, progressive anime starring mostly girls, you don't want to have a character acting like that, do you? That sounds kind of heavy. And are you really going to write your character, who you voice, to act like that?
Governor, as per your instructions, I'd like you to meet the new sheriff of Rock Ridge.
I'd be delighted. Wow! I've got to talk to you. Come here. Have you gone berserk? Can't you see that that man is a nit? Wrong person, forgive me. No offense intended. Have you gone berserk? Can't you see that that man is a nit?
So Jean is written to already start out as basically a good person who respects women's abilities as fighters, who simply needs to learn to accept help instead of refusing it for what...
So, let's see. There's a few things here, right? So, Jean is a bit of a loser. In the beginning, and, yeah. Him not putting in the effort is important. Let's see. So, okay, DWN037. If the writers say that they liked Avatar, and you can find multiple parallels between them, then that makes it a pretty strong case that they borrowed plot devices and characters without much forethought. So, let's see. Four Kingdoms, intro that has narration and sets some stuff up. A character that deals with internalized toxic ideas of masculinity and has to grow. Okay, Jean has some stuff in similarity with Sokka. Alright. That's cool. Let's see. There was the reincarnation thing, right? Which works completely differently in RWBY than it does in Avatar: The Last Airbender. So, how is it a ripoff? Like, there's one thing here that seems to be genuinely inspired by Avatar, which is Jean. And it's the only one that there's any actual evidence given for from the actual people who wrote the show. Like, I would agree with you, except that the things that are being pointed out as parallels are just story elements. He's not arguing it's a ripoff of Avatar, just that the story isn't hitting the same heights as Avatar despite taking clear inspiration. Okay. Let's keep watching. Because he does call it a ripoff, I believe, or something along those lines. What he does say is he calls it an Avatar remake. And earlier on he called it Avatar fanfiction. So, you know, it's maybe not ripoff. I don't know if he uses those words specifically, but it's certainly the implication here.
Tis now no reason. It actually turns out that a ton of weird things about RWBY happened that way because they were like that in Avatar. That interrogation thing in the first episode of RWBY was always a silly choice. Why take her to this weird dimly lit empty room to invite her to a school? But it makes much more sense if you happen to have seen the first episode of Legend of Korra, when Korra gets arrested and interrogated. If a scene in RWBY seems out of place, or like a scene from another show just happened for no reason in the middle of this one, it's probably because it did. So it's pretty clear, to the point they literally admit it, that a big problem with RWBY's writing is that the creators are grasping wildly at shows they like for things to recreate in their show in the hopes of crafting a story. It's only technically been written in one sense of the word. It's more of a reconstituted amalgam of things they thought were cool elsewhere. Grind up all that meat and stuff it into a sausage casing. If you like anything about RWBY, and you haven't seen much anime before because it didn't seem like it was for you, I guarantee guarantee you right now, there's a show in this list that the thing you liked about RWBY came from, and you'd like that show a hell of a lot more. And let's be honest, it's probably Avatar.
I know several RWBY fans who are huge fans of anime, much bigger fans of anime than I am, who all love RWBY. His style of humor is pretty over-exaggerated like that. I haven't seen the video, but that's what I gathered over the past 20 minutes or so. Yeah, it is. His whole thing is very over-exaggerated. And that's fine when you're not trying to make detailed arguments for something. Like, if you're really trying to make good arguments, you can't just exaggerate your points. You have to make very specific, intentional points. So calling it, accusing it of being an Avatar remake, it might be exaggeration, but if that's what you say, it's the point you're making. Like, you can't just say, oh, I'm just exaggerating everything, so you shouldn't take my argument seriously? Like, the words he chooses mean something, and he can't just pretend they don't, just because his persona is exaggerated.